Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Sal with FX Art Desk. Um, this is going to be a really long video, and I don't know if I'm going to have enough things to say. I did a couple. I think I'm going to do a couple long videos. I was thinking about doing just sculpting the whole thing to completion, and then just combining all those clips together to form one video. But I think it's too much for my machine to handle the render. But I think I'm just gonna make probably like 40, 50 minute long videos and sped up really fast, because the combination of I have like 3 clips that are like, I don't know, like one of them is like an hour long, and the other ones are probably like 20 to 30 minutes long or something like that. I wanted to talk about some things about working with other people, working in an art, a creative environment, like like in the previous job that I had as a in-house sculptor. I was talking about this a couple weeks ago with a friend of mine, and one of the 3 things that I brought up was trust, honesty, keeping promises. Well, there's 4 things. Well, there's probably more than that, but the main ones are trust, honesty, keeping promises, and being valued. Some of these can be combined together, like trust, honesty, and keeping promises. So like, it's probably the same. Probably the same, but knowing, it's good to know that you won't be stabbed in the back or lied to by your employer, or by your other co-workers in a working environment. It's important to be able to rely on them. When they tell you something's going to happen, it should happen, such as getting paid. I've been in that situation before. I was told I was going to get paid. I wasn't getting paid for a long period of time, and when it was time to get my back pay, it was not what I had expected. At least be honest. Say that, just say that, times are tough. This is a new company. We're like backed up. We just don't have the funds to get to put in money into the payroll. Just be honest with me. You just don't have to make up lies like I've been fed before, and that's happened, and you gotta watch out for that. You can either like just suck it up and take it, or you can like speak out. I don't know what was the right decision I made. I spoke out, and then sure enough, like the very next day, I was let go for other reasons. But they were just not good people, you know. But I think one of the most important things about being an employee, like, it doesn't matter if you're an artist or or a office worker or a laborer or a cook, chef, whatever. It's important to be valued as an employee. And as an employee or a partner, as an artist, give praise. Let the people that's working for you know that they're doing a good job. Because if you don't, then they'll think that they're not doing a good job. It makes it just a bit more worth it to let them know, and don't just blow smoke up their ass. Just be honest, but give them praise. Because the fear of getting fired is always there. Set their mind at ease. A working artist is a too good to be true gig. It honestly is. Everybody wants to do it. Everybody wants to be a working artist. Anybody who's like studying to be an artist wants to be a working artist. That's just the bottom line. And when I finally became one, I was like, am I dreaming? Somebody pinch me. I need to wake up. And I was constantly looking over my shoulder. I had my own office. I came from nothing. I spent millions of years in school practicing every day, sleepless nights, and not getting anywhere. And then all of a sudden, I had my own office. And it was like surreal. It was so surreal. I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't. It was just like a dream come true. But, easy come, easy go. So that fear is there. And if you don't praise your workers, make them feel valued, be honest with them, they're just gonna freak out. I freaked out. I was freaking out all the time. And it was because I wasn't valued. And I was like treated like I was taken for granted. And my designs were stolen. I worked for free. They used my designs in their portfolio and gave me no credit. At least include my name in the projects that were used. Even though that I wasn't getting paid, that I didn't get paid for my work, at least give me credit. But they didn't have the decency to do that. So I think throughout my videos I'll probably revisit my experience with that. Even though it was a bad experience, there was some good that came from it. I learned how to use ZBrush I appreciate the time that I spent there for that reason. I probably would have been able to learn it on my own, but I was forced. I was a bit more motivated to study it since I was getting, somewhat paid. I learned as I earned. I've heard that expression used once before. So anyway, I want to go into a little bit more depth about using CX5. And I want to give proper steps into using it. I mean, I think this probably can be applied to other materials, but I found that it works really well with CX5. So this is what I have in my list so far. I'm not going to list them. Well, I guess I'll list them. No, I'll just go through each one as I go. Okay, so the first item on my list is carefully test the settings on your skillet. I have an electric skillet, and it's pretty big. It's I think it's between 12 or 16 by 16 or something like that. And there's I don't remember the name of the skillet or what brand it is. But I think that there's it goes in increments of 50 or 100. I think it's 100, but between off, it doesn't start showing numbers until 300. So it's from off to 300, 400, and so on, or 300 and 350 and 400, something like that. So I'm assuming that in between off and 300 are hundreds or 50s. So I'm assuming that's degrees in Fahrenheit. So you want to, with my skillet, I had to step it up, because I put it somewhere in between 300 and off. And then it was melting the wax really fast, and it started to boil, which you don't want it to do. It was boiling and sizzling. You don't want it to do that, or you're going to burn the wax. And it'll create smoke. You don't want that to happen. So what I did was I tried to find the midpoint where it would just slowly melt the wax, and then where it would keep it in a putty or clay consistency. And you have to keep the lid on it to retain the heat. So once I found that sweet spot, you can use a thermometer, a food thermometer, and stick it into the wax. And I think you have to look at the instructions of the wax to see what the heating directions are. So you want to keep it at those temperatures. But I just did it by eye. And once I found the sweet spot, I put I cut a triangle of masking tape, and I placed it on one of the notches on the dial. And I can turn the knob within that notch, and I don't go higher or lower than that notch to maintain the heat that I want. So once you figure that out, you can pretty much block out the forms. You can scoop out the CX5, and it's like putty or clay, and then you can get like the general shape of the figure that you want. So, like in this video, I'm sculpting an arm. It starts out with an already sculpted arm, but I'm trying to fix the anatomy. So, well, actually, before you block out the form, have your references ready. I went through Google Images and I found anatomy of the arm for a male figure, and I got a bunch of like bodybuilding images of bodybuilders' arms in different positions. So look for a bunch of references. That's like that should be like the first step. And then once you have your references, and then you block out your forms, then in the blocking out stage, make sure the proportions are correct. The proportions in the symmetry. So I have in this video, I have 2 arms, and then making sure that the proportions are the same on both sides. And it's important to make sure that you do this before you add in your detail. So once you got that straightened out, you take your wax pen and you put it on. I have the first Kerr Ultra Waxer, and I have I think it's called the Hollenbeck tip, or half Hollenbeck. It's a small tool. It's curved on the bottom, and it's curved, and it's also like a wedge. Like it's a tapered wedge. So on the wedge side, what you can do is incise lines. You incise lines or draw lines in between muscle groups. So you're basically drawing the anatomy. And I think I have it on the waxer at 300 degrees. That might be too high. You can probably set this a bit lower. Whatever you can set it to, that where you can like really get into the wax to create those lines. And then once you have those lines, you can either keep the temperature the same or lower the temperature a little bit, and then insert the wedge of that tool in those lines that you created, and then you move around the muscle group, or that muscle, in a curved motion around, to round out the forms on both sides. So like you're kind of like, feeling the roundness of the muscle as you're moving the tip around it, like on the side, like this at the side of the wedge. And you continue to do this. You keep, like, I was going around the arm, turning, going from one muscle and then going to the next one, and then going on each side of that one muscle, back and forth. Like, I would start at one end and then go down one side of the muscle all the way down to the end, and then I would go on the other side of the muscle and start at one end and keep on pulling that round form all the way down. And then once you got those muscles formed out, you can lower the heat, and then with the tip, you can smooth out all those muscles even further, because once you have it on a lower heat, it doesn't move that much wax. It just goes over the surface. But you can only smooth it to a certain extent with that tool. After you got that taken care of with the heated tool, you can go on to start using using the hot sanding technique with the really fine sanding pads, and your alcohol lamp. You kind of have to, when I was using the sanding pads and the heat, I was trying to use the edge of the sanding pad and then move around, like try to get in between the muscle groups, and then sanding around those forms, like I was with the waxer, with the wax pen. And then once you're done with the hot sanding, then you can go on using wet sanding. There's two sanding pads. There's two sanding tools that I use. I use the higher grit 3M sanding pad, and I get like I get a plastic, a somewhat shallow plastic tub container, and I fill it with cold water. Make sure the water is pretty cold. It's good to use cold water because it'll keep the wax firm, a lot more firm, which is good for sanding. So I use a higher grit sanding pad to start out with, and that makes it pretty smooth. I don't remember what grit that the sanding pad is, but you can feel the grit with your fingers when you touch it. And the reason why I use water, the water washes away the material from the sanding pad. So the wax, it prevents the wax from gumming up your pad or your sanding paper. So after I use the sanding pad, I then use wet dry sanding paper, which is a finer grit. Again, I don't remember the grit of the sanding paper, but you can experiment with it. It's a finer grit. But you want something that will reduce the surface of the material. And I've gotten pretty good results using this technique. A lot better than I've been able to do it before. But then I can go on to, then you can go on to using lighter fluid. But I am still kind of unsure about using that chemical. I feel that lighter fluid is best used in the final stage of your sculpture. But this is what I think. I'm kind of sure its use. I'm pretty sure its use is for like when you're doing tighter details like veins and face, like eyes and lips, where it's really hard to get it in with the sanding paper or the sanding pad, I guess like at that stage, you probably could use sanding paper in those tight areas, but it's still pretty hard to reach. But at that stage, you can use the lighter fluid to soften up the most, like the most top layer of the CX5, to soften it up, and then you can go back into the wax using sharp tools to create wrinkles, fine wrinkles, and pores. And then I assume that you can use like a soft bristle brush to soften the tool marks left behind while creating those wrinkles and pores. But I still have to experiment with using lighter fluid. It's not really safe to use lighter fluid, so you know, I've tried avoiding it as much as I could, but there's no way around it. I believe there's another product that is offered through Adam Bean Industries webpage, his supply store, where you can order some alternative to using lighter fluid. I can't remember the name of that product, but it's I just looked at it. I looked it up recently, right before I started recording this narration, actually. So recently, a couple weeks ago, I went to go visit a friend in LA. I'm from the Central Valley in California, so I don't actually live in LA, but I have a friend / business partner that I went to go visit, and it was a really enjoyable visit. We worked on a prototype that we've been collaborating on for a while, and we went to Burbank to visit this art store called Motion Picture Effects Company. They had, it was my very first time ever visiting that store. They had a lot of cool displays, props, and really giant sculptures. They have a wide variety of tools and materials. I picked up one. It was it was a double-sided tool. On one side, it had little wire, little pieces of wire sticking out of one end, kind of like a, kind of like a steel brush. But those pieces of wire are good for making wrinkles, like a bunch of wrinkles at the same time. And then, but on the other side, it had it was a bristle brush. Now, I think a tool like that is normally used for Chavant, but I don't have any Chavant. I have monster clay, and I'm assuming that it will work for the same for monster clay, but I have to test it out. On the tool, I can't remember the name of the tool, but on the directions it says to you create your lines, your wrinkles with the wire side, and then you dip the bristle brush into powder, which is talcum powder, and then you brush the surface of your clay. And then what the bristle brush does, it it smooths out all those tool marks. So I'm pretty excited about that tool. I'm gonna have to go experiment with it one of these days. So, yeah, it was fun. It was really nice to work with a partner, to work with a friend. It's been, I don't think we ever worked before in the same area. He has a little, he has a work area set up in his garage. And I've seen, like, he's shown it to me through pictures, through texts, and it looked pretty nice. And I was able to work on it when I was over there. We made molds of this one model that I sculpted out of CX5, and then we worked on a different model. We were experimenting with this new material called Cosflex. It's like, it behaves like Warbler. I don't know if anybody, for those of you out there who's used Warbler before or knows of it, it's like that. It comes in sheets, in rolls of sheets, and it's this thermal plastic, and what you have to do is you have to use a heat gun and heat up the piece or area that you wanna form, and then once it's heated up, you can like use different forms, or if it's not too hot, you can use your hands, which we were doing, but you got to be careful that it's not too hot. And then you can push out forms into almost any form that you want. And then once it cools down, it hardens up and it retains its shape. And we were getting pretty good results with it. I was pretty happy. My friend was pretty happy with the results. But there was like a couple issues. Like one of the issues is that when you push out forms, it can only go to a certain extent where it breaks up. Like it'll start to open holes. Which was an issue at first, but then my friend and we figured out that if you use a saw or some kind of rasp, you can create like little bits and pieces of the material, or you can even cut it up into little tiny pieces, and use my friend was using a soldering iron, and he put it on a pretty low setting. I guess you can use a wax pen too, but he was using a heating tool, and he was able to patch up holes that we accidentally opened up while we were stretching it out, and it's pretty seamless. It patched it up really well. It was almost like working with wax. So we went to that motion picture effects company. I never been there before, and we were talking to the clerk that was attending the register, and I asked her if a lot of production houses come and visit the shop, and I was wondering if they left behind business cards. And she said that you can go on the website. Well, if you want, I was just wondering if I can show my portfolio and my resume, and see if I can connect with them if they needed anybody to, like, needed any in-house sculptors or like mold makers or whatever. But she said that she handed me their card, the store's card, and then I can go from there. I can go onto their website and then send them an email with my information and stuff like that, which I thought was pretty cool. So, I don't know if it shows in the video. I haven't been paying attention to the video, but I kind of messed up on the proportions on the hands. And no, it doesn't. I don't think it shows on this video, but I had to reduce this size of the hands a great deal. So I spent like way too much time working on the details of the hands, only just to have to reduce the size and lose all that work. So, in the blocking out stage, that's why it's very important to take care of those proportions and the symmetry before you start adding the detail. But this video is about to end, and I thank you for watching, and leave a comment, like, subscribe, donate to my Patreon if you can. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.